Hello, everyone. If you guys can hear me, let me know. Service is always spotty out here, running a live stream from my cell phone. But if you guys can hear me and see me, let me know in the chat. And sweet, right on. So I'm super excited for tonight's live stream. I've got a really fun talk planned for us that's going to be about pricing out a small cabin build, as you guys probably saw in the title. But I went and collected all the prices from Lowe's and from another local lumber yard, and just basically all the materials and costs that would go into a small cabin build. So it's going to be fun. I'm going to make sure that everyone's logged in and doing good here. Sounds good in PA. Right on. Wales. Awesome. Cool. It always blows me away to hear all the amazing places that you all are from. For sure, tell me where you guys are streaming in from, because to me that's just really, really neat. Long Beach. Right on. All right. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and launch into this. Idaho, Maine, cool. California. Wow. Neat. So for those of you guys that aren't in Alaska, which sounds like the majority of you, today is a snowy April day. I woke up to about an inch of snow outside, and then it pretty much snowed all day. So nice little dusting on top of everything, which will be fun. I'm going to take my snowshoes out tomorrow. With the new snow, it's always the best time to go out walking because you can see all the little animal tracks, and you really know who's in the neighborhood after a new snow. So anyway, right on. Thanks for joining tonight. Like I said, tonight's going to be a fun one. So we got lots to talk about. So we're going to get right to work. The idea with this is you guys can kind of track along at home. If you guys have small cabin projects or builds that you're working on, feel free to ask questions pertaining to your specific sizes and builds. I am no expert at any of this, so if don't take any of this and build a building that is on my word. But I do have a pretty good idea about what I'm going to build this summer, which is going to be a small, I think 10 by 12, maybe 10 by 14 guest cabin / bunkhouse. And it's going to be just off the side of the cabin here where my shed is now. But I'm going to have I'm going to move my shed, which will be another fun project. And then I'm going to put that bunkhouse there. So anyway, so the general estimate that I'm going to be doing tonight is going to be based on a 10 by 12 cabin with about a 4-foot porch coming off the front. And I'm going to do a pretty shallow roof pitch compared to my other one. I think I'm going to do a 512 roof pitch instead of my 812 like I have on my cabin. And I'll talk more about that here in a little bit. But anyway, so that's the basic build we're going to price out. So if I got any math nerds out there, please step in. I've got a calculator and some sketches, but please help me with the math so I can keep this running smooth. And if you guys have any updates on current prices or things like that, feel free to chime in. So yeah, let's get into it. So first of all, like I said, I'm building a small guest cabin bunkhouse just off the side of the property. I've got too many folks crashing in my cabin all the time. And if I've ever got little ones running around in the future, it would be a nice place to have kids or parents or anything like that. So it's going to be nice to have a whole extra guest cabin. And like I said, I'm going to do a 10 by 12. And to start with, we're going to talk about foundation. So I've gone back and forth about what kind of foundation to do for this build, but I think I've finally settled on doing the same type of foundation that I have for the cabin, which is concrete poured piers inside of sonotubes. So what I'm going to need for that is a few things. It's going to be the rental for the tool. The post hole digger is a really nice tool to have, and I think I'll probably rent one. And I think that they actually have one for rent in the nearest town, about an hour away at the Home Depot there. So I think that's about $60 a day for the actual tool. And then I went ahead and looked at the sonotubes themselves. So a 6-inch sonotube right now at a 4-foot length, which is about how far you want to go down here to get down below frost line. If you're anywhere that has, hard freezing in the winter, you're for sure going to want to get well below frost line. So a 4-foot depth on a sonotube is a pretty solid bet. The 6-inch diameter is the smallest that you can go. You really should be doing more like an 8-inch if you have a substantial structure at all. But the one that this cabin that I'm in right now, I did do 6-inch, even though everything says you're not supposed to. I did, and I've had zero problems. It's totally level, even to this day, 7 years later. So I'm gonna catch up on these comments. Bigger porch, yeah, I know it's not going to be much of a hanging out porch. It's just going to be a small area to maybe stack some wood and keep the rain off the front. It's not. It's certainly not going to be a big old porch, and the porch is going to be on the front side of it instead of on the broad side of it. So it's mostly just a shed area. But I've got the big porch over here for hanging out on. So porches are really big enough. That's true. You guys are right. But like I said, I've got a big porch here. So okay. So foundation, like I said, we need sonotubes. So at $8.72 a sonotube. I think that for a 12-foot cabin, but then with a 4-foot porch, that's going to be a 16-foot beam that I want to put in. And so in order to beat that span, I think a minimum of 3 sonotubes per beam. So that'll put me at an 8-foot span. So if I'm at 16-foot total, yeah, one in the middle, that'll be an 8-foot span between posts, or I should say between piers. And so that means I will need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those sonotubes. All right, so that's $8.72 times 6. So I'm gonna do that math. We can round up. Let's do $9 times 6. How about that? Let's see, 9 times 6. So it's gonna be 54 bucks. All right. So we got our sonotubes and our $60 rental already. Hello from the Talkeetna Mountains. Nice, built on a huge rock. Yeah, if you can get down to bedrock, you almost don't even need a foundation, huh? You guys are cracking me up. Okay. So after we have our sonotubes drilled out and put in, we are going to need some concrete. And I priced out 60-pound bags of Quikrete are $5.99. And the sonotubes, let's see, I did this math, but I realized now that I didn't bring it, so I'm not going to be able to do this right now. But how many bags of the 60-pound Quikrete will we need to fill up all the sonotubes? I believe that they're rated to 0.5 cubic feet per bag. Let's see. Like I said, I wrote this all down, but I didn't save it with me. It's all on my other piece of paper. So I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to need at least 10 to 15 bags of that Quikrete. So $6 times 15 bucks times 15. That's going to be 90 bucks. No, that ain't right. It's going to be more than that. It's probably going to be like 20 bags. Anyway, if you guys know how much, basically what we need to know is how much square footage goes into one of those 6-inch diameter sonotubes at 4-foot length. It says right on the sonotube how much cubic footage, cubic yard maybe, fills into one of those, and then however much the Quikrete bags make, we need to figure out how many of those go into the tubes, and then multiply that by 6 because we have 6 of them. So yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna catch up on you guys' comments here. Right on. You guys got it covered over here. All right. I'm going to carry on. So let's see here. After we got our concrete poured, there are the post brackets that we need to put into the concrete, and those are about between 20 and 25 bucks a piece, depending on what style you're going for. Some of the bigger ones that are taller for taller beams are like $28, but I'm going to say about 25 bucks for each one of those. And there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. So 25 times 6, and that's going to be 150 bucks, I think. Okay, so we've got foundations looking like this. $60 rental for the post hole digger. And then we have the $54 for the actual sonotubes. And then I'm gonna estimate, I could be wrong, but I'm gonna say about $150 for the concrete. Like I said, that's not a number I'm sure about right now, but I think that's a pretty safe estimate. And then we got another $150 in brackets that will go into the concrete. Which, by the way, I think I'm going to try this trick where I put PVC in the concrete, like a PVC tube, so that there's an actual like hole in the top of the pier that I can put an adjustable post in there, like you'd see in a pier block or something like that. So that way afterwards I can go up and down with the bolt. Anyway, we'll see. Okay, so that brings us to $414 for our foundation. Now, take that number and add like 50% of it, because you got to think about the fact that screwed up the gas money to get out there, all the Gatorades that you need. There's so many different things that go into it. And in fact, I realized that I didn't think about the concrete mixer rental, which is probably another $50. So let's just add $150 to that. And 414 plus, let's see, 414 plus $150, $564. Okay, $564. So again, that's being a little, liberal with my overestimating, but yeah, at 20% for new tools. Yeah, exactly. And it's funny. In my how I built this cabin video, I talked about how I got a lot of tools at pawn shops. But since the main financial burden of building the cabin is out, I've slowly started to collect a little bit nicer tools. So hopefully, this will be a lot more fun to actually have some proper tools for this build. So I am probably going to invest in a couple new things too, just for this one. So it should be fun. Um, all right, so let's see. Scaffold jacks and adjustable height. Yeah, so Greg, are you talking about like the foundation, like the adjustable ones? Or are you talking about like needing that as a tool to get up? Don't forget about beer and friends helping. Yeah, probably the biggest expenses. Yeah. I do have a lot of friends who've said they'd help, but it's funny. It's such a committing project to actually get work done. You're working from the time you wake up until the time you go to sleep. So I only kind of take those offers with a grain of salt. I anticipate I'll be doing a lot of the work by myself. I do have one or two friends who I'm pretty confident will actually help out quite a bit. So we'll see. Um, yeah, to put into the holes. Yeah, so imagine like you see the pier blocks at like Lowe's or whatever that have the adjustable, like a big bolt and then an adjustable post bracket that go into a big washer. If you put the PVC in the piers, it'll basically leave a hole inside of your concrete that will allow you to have an adjustable up and down post base. I think if I put a big enough washer, it would spread out the load. I don't know. That's my plan for it. I think I'm going to do that. That way, I don't have to level the sonotubes exactly perfectly. Because if you don't have the sonotubes perfectly level, when the concrete sets, like that's it. You're going to be stuck with shimming and different things like that, and that's a stressful deal. All right, moving right along. I don't know when the last time you guys went to the lumber store was, but 2x4s are getting cheaper, my friends. 2x4s are getting cheaper. So I went over to Lowe's, and right now a 2x4x8 is $3.74, which is like 1/4 of what it was a couple years ago during COVID. I mean, things are astronomically expensive, just totally crazy. And so 374 is not bad. Here's what's interesting. For any of you guys who are in Alaska, there's a local building supply called Spinard Builders. And Spinard Builder Supply has been an awesome resource for me because they actually have guys at the contractor counter who know what they're talking about. So I've learned a ton from these guys. I really owe a lot to them. Every time I'd have a new step with the cabin, I'd stop by there, get what I needed, and kind of ham it up with a guy. And they would usually give me a pretty good idea about what I was getting into and some of the considerations and help me find the right materials. especially since they build in this local area. They had really relevant knowledge. I think it really wherever you're building, there's different considerations. There's bugs, a lot of wet, a lot of wind, a lot of snow, whatever it might be. And where I'm at, it's just snow. That's the big thing. There's not real wind problems or moisture problems or anything like that. So anyway, at the Spinard Builder Supply right now, 2x4s are $7. For a 2x4x8, it's $7. At Lowe's, it's $3.75. That is pretty near half price. But that's just at the 2x4x8 length. As you get into 2x6s and plywood and everything else, they have a better deal. So I'm not sure why their prices are so different if they haven't caught up with the lumber market yet. Perhaps they're behind. They still have inventory that they bought at those higher prices, so they're not willing to sell it off at the lower prices. I don't know. Either way, let's figure out some walls here. Okay, so I've got 4 walls. 2 of them are 10-foot length, and 2 of them are 12-foot length. We're going to do 16-inch on-center studs. So a 10-foot wall, 16 on center. Here's the math that I do. I don't know. You guys probably got a smarter way to do this. If you do, please tell me. So we got a 10-foot wall. We're going to multiply that by how many inches it is, which is 12. That gives us 120 inches. Divide that by 16, since it's 16 on center, is 7.5 studs. So 8 studs. And then we have to add 2 for the end studs. Really, it's more like 1, but I always had 2 because I always end up screwing 1 up. So we got 9 studs at $3.75. And that's for the 10-foot wall. And then we have 2 of those. So $3.75 times 9. And then we need 2 of those. That's $67. We're going to round it up to 68. $68 for my 10-foot walls. That's not bad. I tell you guys what, like I said, the lumber prices are really a lot better. What am I cooking on the stove? This is my hot pot, actually. I'm not cooking anything. That's my water. So I fill it up with snow. You'll see it in my other videos. I fill it up with snow and leave it on the wood stove. And then the snow melts and turns into water that I use for washing my hands and doing dishes and stuff like that. In fact, it's getting a little hot right now, I think. Let's check on it. Nah. Still just melting off a bunch of snow I put in there. So yeah, I'll move that over to the sink, and then I have hot running water. So that's my hot pot. Yes. So then the top plates and bottom plates of these walls, you can get 2x4 by like 10 to actually span the whole top plate and bottom plate, which I might do, or you can just cut your 2x8s and join them together. So I'm going to add a bunch of extra 2x4s at the end of this for those types of considerations when we're done. So, okay, let's do the same thing with the 12-foot walls. We got a 12-foot wall, and it's times by 12 inches. Divide that by 16 inches. That's 9 studs per wall. And then we need an extra stud for the end. So like I said, we're going to do 2. So that's 11 studs times $3.75. Multiply that by 2. That is $82, people. All right, so we have $68 and $82. Now, let's add, I don't know, another like 10 studs for top plates. And actually, when we talk about doing our windows and everything like that, all our cripple studs and jack studs and things like that, we're going to need a whole lot more 2x4s than that. So let's go ahead and add another, tell you what, let's add 20 2x4x8 studs, just because having more is great. If you need to build something or chop up little pieces for holding up pieces of plywood, or say you need to build some scaffolding, or you screwed up and cut all the studs for an entire wall wrong, let's buy an extra 20. We can always return them. And that's a really nice thing about all this. So we're going to add 20 studs to that. So 20 studs. I'm not seeing any math in the comments section, guys. You guys got to help me out here. What if I'm just making all this up? 20 studs times $3 and 75 cents. It's another 75 bucks. Okay, so $68 for our short walls, $82 for our long walls, and then another. Oops, I just lost it. 20 times 375 is 75 bucks. Okay, so 68 plus 82 plus 75, $225 in 2x4s. Okay. So the windows I haven't decided on yet, which you absolutely have to have your windows and doors picked out and bought before you start framing so that you can frame accordingly to those openings. But that's the one thing that I'm going back and forth on because I'm trying to decide what sort of interior layout I'm going to have. Like I said, I want bunks, so I want at least 4 beds in there. So think about putting in the corner and then having the broad side of the cabin face down towards the pond with big view windows and all the beds on the opposing side and kitty corner. Um, but I haven't really decided. So I'm probably going to say a window up front, maybe 2 windows up front, a window in the back, and then 2 on the other side. So 4 or 5 windows, probably something like that. Which I'll probably buy used. That's one thing that I almost always buy used is windows. There's um, a few things that are nice to just get from the lumber yard, just because it's a pain in the butt chasing things down on Craigslist and Marketplace. But windows is usually easily found for a good price. So okay. So our running total so far, we have a foundation, we have some walls, and we got to talk about subfloor. $564 for the foundation plus $225 for our walls. That's 789 bucks. That's not bad. We're getting there, although it's a long list we have to go. Any questions so far? How's everybody doing? What are you guys drinking out there? I'm having a weird Matanuska 9.2 citrus ale. I suppose it's percentage too, so watch out. Might be interesting night. Okay, let's talk about our subfloor. And our foundation beams. So the current price for a 4 by 10 by 16 foot beam, which is what I'm going to use 2 of those for my foundation, that's going to mount right to the piers. Those are $78, and so I will need 2 of those. 78. Let's see, 78 bucks times 2. So that's 156 bucks. Not bad. Yeah, floor joists and subfloor. That's what we're moving to here next. Okay, and by the way, that's a treated. So for a treated beam, a 4 by 10 by 16 is $78. So 2 of those are going to be my main support beams connected to my foundation. Those will then support the subfloor. Now, for a subfloor, you have joists running between the 2 beams, and so it's going to be a 10-foot cabin. So that span will be under 10 feet because basically the edges of the beams will be slightly recessed in from 10 feet. And that means that there's another 3.5 inches in from there on either side, so 6. So it's more like a 9-foot, 8.5, 9-foot span that these joists have to go. Now, if you don't know, if you can look up span charts for these types of things, you just like look up like how thick of a joist you need to span a particular distance of a subfloor based on your snow load. But that can get really complicated. The way to go is to understand this sort of like feet spanned to inches thick rule. This is like the old-fashioned carpenter's rule. If you have a span that's 10 feet between supports, my joists need to be 10 inches tall in order to have enough weight-bearing support for that span. That's true for beams too. So if you have like an 8-foot span, you're going to want an 8-inch beam. However, with big snow loads, that comes up a little shy on technical spec calculations. So, but that's a good rule of thumb, just kind of a rough estimate. From there, you can look up your span charts. So for my joists, I'll probably use 2 by 8s just to make sure it's super firm And I could probably get away by 2x6 with 2x6s, but I'm going to do 2x8s. Um, and so a 2x6x10. Let's see, I had that written down. Actually, I don't have it written down. Here's a 2x10x8. Okay, so $18 for a 2x10x8. So that's more than I need. So it's probably going to be about $15, I would say, for a 2x8 by 10. Huh, interesting. I don't have the exact number for this one, but we have our joist going across. So we have a 12-foot cabin, 16 on center. So 12 times 12 divided by 16. That means we're going to need 9 floor joists, one on either end, and then rim. So we'll add 3 to that. So that's going to be 12. And those are about $15 a pop. I'm going to use treated floor joists because they're exposed to the elements. Technically, if you're high enough off the ground, you don't have to according to code. But I think that anything that's exposed to the elements, especially the subfloor that holds the whole thing together, is a really smart idea to have treated. It's definitely a bit extra money, but in the long run, it's nice to have. So it's another $180 roughly on that. Okay, so that gives us our floor joists. Catch up on these comments. Black stout. Oh, blackout stout. Yeah, that sounds like quite a drink. Why the 2x4 walls and not 2x6? I did 2x6 for the cabin, and for added insulation, it's great. But this is just a tiny little 10x12 bunkhouse that will be used on and off. So I'm not really super worried about efficiency. I think that whatever heat source I put in there, which we'll talk about later, is going to be more than enough to keep that thing really warm, even with a 2x4 insulation. And the big thing is that it's insanely cheaper right now. 2x4 is $3.75. A 2x6x8 at Spinard Builders Supply, or I'm sorry, at Lowe's is $11.45. So that's over 3 times as expensive to frame with 2x6. So I just decided 2x4 would be the way to go. So yeah, that's why I'm doing 2x4s. Yeah, just way too expensive. Foam 4-inch foam board on the outside for insulation. I've thought about that. Yeah, you can wrap the whole thing in foam board. I've heard you can do insulation on the inside and on the outside. I don't think I'm going to need it, honestly. My sauna is all framed with 2x4s, and that thing stays after we fire up the sauna and get it really warm. It stays warm for a really long time, even when it's super super cold. So yeah, totally. That's what I'm saying. Thanks, Faye. Appreciate you. So cool. All right. Um, yeah, it doesn't need to retain the heat very long. We're also going to talk about heat sources because I've gone a lot of different ways with what to do for this build heat source wise. So anyway, we got a lot to talk about here. Okay, so we've got our foundation, we've got our beams. We got to talk. There's probably some hurricane ties in there. Let's add $50 for hurricane ties. To tie down the subfloor to the beams. Maybe a little excessive in this neck of the woods, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. I don't want it actually to be able to be picked up by the wind and flown away. Okay, so then we need our subfloor decking. And the subfloor decking, you want to use a nice thick subfloor. So I'm going to use 3/4 inch tongue and groove plywood, or OSB, I should say, not plywood. I've got that priced out at it was $29 at the Spinard Builders Supply, $41 at Lowe's, so significantly cheaper at Spinard Builders Supply. So let's round it up to $30, and let's do some square footage. So we got a 10x12 cabin. That's 120 square feet, and a piece of plywood is 4x8, and so that's 32 square feet. So we have 120 square feet divided by 32 square feet. And that's going to give us 3 3/4 pieces of plywood, so I will need 4 full pieces of plywood. All right, so we got $30 per sheet. Hopefully this price has come down by the time I actually go to buy it here in a month or two, but that's not bad right now, honestly. I mean, compared to what it's been and everything else in the economy. 30 times 4, that's $120 just for our subfloor and that 3/4 tongue and groove, but it's worth it to have that nice thick decking. Um, so we've got 120 bucks for our subfloor decking. Okay, and then we need insulation going in between the joists. Um, there's a lot of debate about what to do here. I think that having fiberglass bat insulation in between the joists is asking for trouble unless you fully close it off from the bottom. I did see a video of a guy who does bubble wrap like down on top of the joist before he does the subfloor and says that that works really well. But I'm going to go ahead and use closed foam um, board insulation for my subfloor, I believe, which is what I've done for all the others. And if you caulk the edges of it, it actually makes a good vapor seal too. So closed foam board in 2-inch by 2x8 is 25 bucks. So we got a 2x8. That's 16 square foot. We got 120 square foot we got to cover. Divided by 16 of those is 8. We need 8 of those boards, and the boards are 25 bucks. 8 times 25, $200 for our subfloor insulation. We'll see. I might try to find something cheaper. That feels expensive. All right, how are we doing out there? Is this too much like a math lecture? You guys liking this? I hope this is helpful. Yeah, so a couple cans of glue. At the end, I'm going to add in all the miscellaneous expenses like that. Things like glue, screws, nails, pencils, your broken tape measure, an extra trip back to town because you forgot to buy beer. All those different things are. I'm just going to add a big lump sum at the end. So I'm not going to get into that. I'm talking about the big expenses right now. Yeah, it does get expensive quick. Okay, moving right along. So we have our foundation, we have our beams, we have our subfloor, we have the insulation in it, we have the decking. Now we have the walls. By golly, I think it's time to start moving on up. Let's talk about a roof. I'm going to do a cathedral ceiling roof, which is going to be really fun. In this cabin, I have big old tall ceilings that were made possible by good people at Spinard Builder Supply, building trusses for this cabin that were, I think, about $1,200 for all the trusses for this whole cabin. But I decided I'm going to stick frame this all myself. So in order to have a cathedral ceiling, you have to have what's called a ridged beam, not a ridged board. And for those of you who are builders, know what I'm talking about. But if you don't, this is really important. You have to have a supported beam through the center of the cabin in order to do a cathedral ceiling, because without the rafter ties tying in the bottom part of the triangle, this part, if you were to build normal rafters, it won't have enough support. You'll get a sagging roof. So I'm going to have a big old ridge beam going across the top that's then supported by the walls. And that beam is going to be, we're going to say a 4 by 10 by 16. That's a $78 beam. And then I'm going to cut my rafters. And I think I'm going to be conservative and call those 2 by 10s instead of 2 by 8s. I think I'm overbuilding this roof a little bit, but since I'm doing a shallower pitch, I don't anticipate it to shed much snow. I'm going to do a 512 pitch, which really, I mean, it will shed snow when it gets like warm, but it's not going to shed it like a 1212 pitch will. So I'm really going to have to build this to hold the snow rather than shed it. So I think I'm going to go a little beefier on my ridge beam and a little beefier on my ceiling my roof rafters. So my beam, like I said, is a 4 by 10 by 16, $78. And now I need 16 feet worth of 2 by 10 by 8s. I'm going to do an 8 foot. They'll be 8 foot long. That way the plywood matches the top really well. Okay, those are $18 a piece. So let's do a little math. We got 18. So let's see, it's a 16-foot long roof, 16 on center. So we're going to multiply that by 12, then divide it by 16. And that means I have 12. And then we want end one. So we'll add 2 or 3 more. So let's go ahead and say 15 of those. And those are $18.35. So that's going to be $275 for my roof rafters. So yeah, we're starting to get some dollars invested into this thing now. And again, this is current lumber prices in Alaska. Um, yeah. Hey Tony, appreciate you. Can you mill? I can't mill any wood myself. No. Yeah, take it easy, man. Um, yeah, I've done shed roofs on both my shed and my sauna, Matt AK, and I have to say that unless you do it pretty steep, it's really easy to build. In fact, I didn't even bird mouth out my roof rafters for my sheds, which I didn't realize was such a no-no, but they've held up fine. So yeah, super easy. But again, in order to get the right like pitch, you end up losing a lot of roof space if you want to go anything steeper than like 312. Um, and I think that the front side of those is always like it's super tall. So a lot of the snow and rain like blows in and hits the building. You don't have as nearly as much like protection on the sides from the elements, like snow piles up on the porch, different things like that. So it's yeah, I mean, I've always done that for ease myself, but this is the first time that I'm realizing I'm just going to learn how to actually frame a roof and put up with it, just because I think it will shed snow a little better, provide more room inside, and it also just protects the sides from the elements a little bit more. Um, so yeah, that's what I was thinking there. Minivan life first cabin building. Appreciate. Good, right on. I'm glad you're enjoying it. By the way, guys, I want to tell you on a totally side note, I am just trying out my first solar power today. I got a, EcoFlow um, portable power station. It's the Delta 2, and it has a little 100-watt solar panel with it, just a dinky little thing. It's not like any real solar setups out there, but it's really fun. It's cool. I haven't ran my generator more than 2 hours, all for the last about 3 days, just to charge up that power station, and then I just run the entire cabin on that power station. It's been awesome. So new video on my dipping my toe into the solar world coming out soon. So I know a lot of you guys are interested in solar. So and it's not just solar; it's just the electronic power bank and all that kind of stuff that goes with it. So anyway, it's really fun. Okay, moving right along. So we've got walls. Let's see, where was I? Lost myself here. Oh yeah, the roof. So we stick framed in $275 for those. Okay, let's see. What am I missing? We need plywood to go around all of it. Half-inch plywood, which is pretty good for walls or roofing, but 7/16 a lot of people use for walls. You don't necessarily need half-inch, but we're going to go ahead and price this out on half-inch just to be conservative. Is $17.31 for a 4x8 piece of half-inch plywood. Um, okay, so let's see. How do we figure out how much of that we need? Well, this is where it gets interesting. Here, our walls are 8 feet. All right, calculator along with me here. So we have 8 foot walls, and they are two different sizes. We have the 10 foot by 8 foot is a 80. And well, let's see, 10 foot by 8 foot, and then let's see, squared. All right, so that's going to be 80 square feet for that wall. Then we have two of those. So we got 160 square feet in our 10 by walls. And then we have 12 times 8. That is 96 square feet times 2, 192. Okay, so 160 square feet and then 192 square feet. Add those together as our square footage needed to be covered by plywood on the walls. All right, so if I'm not mistaken, that's 352 square feet. How much does one piece of plywood cover? Well, 8 times 4 is 32. So 8 times 4. So 32. So 352 divided by 32 is 11. That means we need 11 pieces of plywood to sheathe the walls. And those are $17. We're going to add an extra piece because we screwed up and cut one wrong. So we're going to do 12 of those. And those are costing us $17. So that's $204. That'll cover our sheathing for the outside walls. Yes, run the sheathing from the to the bottom of the subfloor joist. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think having it a little lower. Yeah, so yeah, good point. We'd probably want to budget a little extra for all this to cover our top plates and all that good stuff. So maybe we'll add an extra piece in there. Maybe add extra two pieces in there. 17 times 2, 34. So $238. All right, moving on up. We're doing pretty good. We're getting there. I don't know about buying the lumber in the lower 48 and shipping it. I'm not sure that that would be any cheaper. I can't imagine that shipping thousands of pounds of lumber anywhere would be remotely cheaper. Also, just sounds like a pain in the butt. You can shop marketplace, and maybe there's someone ripping their deck apart that needs to get rid of a bunch of 2x4s, things like that. That might be good. Um, okay. Yeah, totally. But yeah, lumber isn't super different in different places. All right. So now we need to sheet our roof. That's for sure going to be half inch. And that's going to be 16 feet by 8 feet per side. 16 times 8, 128 times 2. And then we're going to, so 256 square feet divided by 32 is 8. Does that seem right? Double check that. So 16 feet times 8 times 2 divided by 32. Yep. So 8 pieces of plywood for the roof, also at $17. It's 136 bucks. All right. So with everything we've priced out so far, we've got a subfloor, we've got beams, we have insulation in the subfloor, we have walls, we have a roof, and we have the whole thing covered in OSB and locked up pretty good. So now it's time to move on. I'd say that's going to cover most of our framing. So let's add an extra $300 for things like headers and nails and different odds and ends that we didn't anticipate. Let's do a running total. What do we got so far? Okay, so we got 564 for our foundation plus 156. Then we got 225, 180, 120, 200, 78, 275, 234. And 136, and then our $300 oopsie. We're at $2,468. 2,500 bucks. Not bad. Not bad, really, when you think of that. We're building the cabin. A lot of lumber packages, pre-made lumber packages are $5,000 just for the lumber. Um, so we're half that, and we actually have a foundation and all that. Okay, I'm gonna try to cruise through this pretty quick. Like I said, let me know if you guys have questions. So ballpark figure to turnkey. Yeah, we're getting there. Hard to say just yet. Yeah, tools we need to consider as well. All right, we need tar paper for the roof. It's going to start raining. We've just built our cabin, and we want to cover that roof with tar paper. So a 30-pound roll of tar paper is $33, and that covers 200 square feet. Again, our roof is this big, 16 feet by 8 times that by 2. That's 256. So we only need one roll of tar paper. No, sorry. Unfortunately, we need two because we're barely going to use the second one. We need 56 feet of the second one. So that's going to cost us 66 bucks for our tar paper to cover the roof in. But you know what's nice is we can use the leftover for the subfloor inside the cabin before we put our main flooring down. In fact, I use tar paper for all sorts of stuff, so nice to have extra. Okay, and then we're moving down to our insulation, R11, that goes into the walls, which is a 171 square foot bat, is 108 bucks. So our walls we figured out are 10 by 8 equals that times 2, 160, and then 92. So that's going to be 160 plus 192 is 352 square feet divided by our rolls that are 171 is it says 2. So for it's just over 2, but we'll say 2 because all the framing and windows it'll take out. So 108 times 2. All right, our insulation is going to cost us $216 for this 10 by 12 cabin. How many pounds per square foot of snow load is optimal for worst case Alaska snow events? You know, I'm not sure about that exact number. You can look it up, but it's like the highest, especially if you're talking about Talkeetna. I saw that you have land in Talkeetna. You would want to consider a massive snow load. um, Whatever, like the top end. You know, it's not like California this year or anything like that down in Tahoe, but about 100 square foot. Yep. Okay. Thanks. Appreciate the answer on that one. So there you go. I mean, that's a safe estimate. Of course, if you have a roof that's going to shed snow, you can get away with less. But some years the roofs just don't shed. Even the 12 on 12 pitch, they'll hold on to the snow because a glaze, just the way that the snow comes together, can really stick to a steep slope sometimes. So you don't want to be stressing about that. Trust me. You guys have seen my other videos, you know, it's stressful. Okay, so moving right along, we have our R11 insulation. So sheet metal roofing, maybe you do shingles or something like that, but for the most part, off grid, we're doing sheet metal roofing. So it's a 3 foot wide, so 16 foot divided by 3 is we're going to need 5.3 of these. So we need 6 of them to get across. And they are $6.70 a foot. And so it's an 8 foot span. So 670 times 8 equals 53. And then times 6 of them, 300 times that by 2. Woo, sheet metal roofing is expensive. That's a big bill. That's $640 to sheet metal roof the house. I might have done the math wrong on that. I'm not sure. Let's see. If you guys got a better idea, but I think that actually might be right. I don't know. Um, all right. What else are we looking at here? Um, if you guys want to do like an interior knotty pine siding, I looked it up for the cheaper thin tongue and groove like I have in my cabin. Currently, it is at $24 for 14 square feet. So inside of our walls, we have 352 square feet, and divide that by 14 means that we have to buy 25 of these packs, and the packs are $24. So 24, that's going to be expensive. 24 times 25, that's going to be 600 bucks to do all interior knotty pine tongue and groove. That seems pricey, but it's cheaper than the thicker stuff. Um, anyway, maybe you just do plywood. Be creative with the inside. I don't know. That seems really expensive just for interior. We need a roll of Tyvek. A 9-foot by 150-foot roll of Tyvek is 127 bucks. So let's add that. We already talked about our foam that we need. And then a vapor barrier, a big old roll of 10 by 100 is $84. All right. So we are pulling into the finish with some of these numbers. How many things did I forget? Tons. We need a door. It's like 200 bucks. Windows, let's budget at least $300. Let's say we get a whole pack of used windows, minimum 300, but really probably more like 5. Let's see here. What else might you want? Exterior siding, probably count on at least a couple $100 on that. We need a heat source. Let's say you want to get a nice wood stove, $100, Toyo stove, something like that. I might put a diesel heater in there. It's not going to be cheap. And then, I'm just going to say another $500 and gas, nails, screws, odds and ends materials, new tape measure, a level, things like that. Really, honestly, might even be safe. Let's just be safe. Let's say $1,000 and stuff that small things that go into it. This doesn't include your tools or anything like that. Gas money to and fro. Okay, let's total this up, and I think we're going to get pretty close to an estimate on getting this 10 by 12 done. So we have $564 for the foundation, plus 156, and then we got 225, 180 plus 120 plus 200 plus 78 plus 275. Oh boy, it's getting pricey. 238 plus 136 plus 300. 66 plus 216. 264. 600. 127. 84. 200 plus 300. Plus 700. Okay. All right. Before I add in the sort of auxiliary money, we're looking at $5,805. $5,805. Again, I added a few extra materials, but in reality, I probably forgot a few as well. So let's round that up to $6,000 to build a cabin that's certainly a good size for an off-grid cabin or a tiny home, something like that. That includes your foundation, your roof, your insulation, your interior siding, your heat source. The only thing I'm not thinking about is like really decorative stuff. Obviously all your furniture, things like that. Add another $1,000 in there, so $7,000. We should be pretty good to go for a 10 by 12 cabin. It just depends on what you want to do. If you guys want to do a cedar interior siding, it's going to cost a lot more money. As the cabin gets bigger, it just gets exponentially more expensive because you have to multiply all these things by a new amount. But yeah, anyway, so I guess I better start saving up some bucks. Luckily, I have a credit card, but it's definitely going to be a little bit more money than anticipated it. This is actually the first time I've gone through and priced this out myself for this build. So it's definitely a little intimidating, but I've got a few months. Let's see, it's April, May. I think I'm probably going to start this build in June. That's usually when the snow is totally gone and the earth is thawed enough to get a post hole digger down into there. The beer budget. Beer budget's expensive, man. That's another $5,000 just for the beer. I'm just kidding. Definitely a consideration, though. Nice. No, I didn't include tools in this talk. I'm assuming that you already have some tools. Yeah, once you get it dried in, you're pretty much good to go. You can take your time and just kind of go piece at a time from there. Any questions for me? I hope this was helpful. I know it was a lot of numbers and math and whatnot, but I wanted to kind of actually do a video that was something of substance and not just sitting around telling Bigfoot stories. So I think I'll save this video on the channel, and you guys can reference back to it later. These are just some helpful thoughts about what materials you might need, things you don't even think about needing, and just kind of getting a ballpark for tiny cabin builds. So yeah. Am I going to be at the bar tonight? No, probably not going to be at any bars tonight. I keep to myself pretty well. I assume you're talking about that. What's that bar called? I don't know, the one with all the controversy down the road there. It is an investment. It will last. Yes, absolutely. I've never had porcupine damage. I've had a porcupine get up underneath my truck when I was camping one time and shake the whole truck and try to eat my brake lines. But yeah, it's not ever happened here at the cabin. I have seen porcupine around, but I've never had one get up underneath. I've seen a porcupine pretty near eat an entire cabin, though. That is totally a consideration. The Nugget Creek cabin, the whole thing is like shaved, and it looks like termites got to it or something. But I guess it was a porcupine because for some reason they had salted the cabin. Um, I think to preserve it or something like that. I'm not sure why they did it, but they brought the porcupines in like crazy and they ate it. So it was a bad idea. But yeah, so yeah, Keith, my place is in the Susitna Valley. Generally, it's if you're in Talkeetna, it's a pretty similar area to where I am. I'm not too far from you there, so I don't get into too specifically where I'm at. So metal and flashing down low on all my buildings. Yeah, good idea. Have a metal to keep the moisture off, where the eaves don't take it over. Yeah. Hey, well, I just want to give a big thanks to all you guys. I really appreciate you watching my channel. It's been a lot of fun making these videos. I've got some new ones coming out that will be different and just keep expanding and trying things out. I did my music breakdown, how we make all the music for the channel, and I think YouTube doesn't know what to do with that video. It's the biggest flop I've had yet, but I thought it was a really fun video to make, and I'm okay with that. I'm not going to just do whatever the algorithm wants me to do. So I'm going to keep making videos because I like to make them. So if you guys haven't checked that one out, please do. It's a lot of fun. And anyway, yeah, a huge thanks to you guys. Hopefully this was helpful. And it's going to be a fun summer. We're going to build this cabin. I'm going to video the whole thing. And we're going to just see what comes of it. Hopefully not too much disaster. But for those of you who are building your own place, I hope that it's also inspiring to see that you really don't have to be a math whiz or a carpenter to build something. You just get out there and do it. So yeah. Yes, thank you, Greg. If you guys hit the like button, that always helps me out. Where do I get fresh water? I'm on a pond. I've got not a ton of water down there, but I do have water. I also haul water. So between the pond, I'm really close to a river. I can fill up really easily for any kind of non-potable water. And then drinking water, I just boil. I also have a pump filter that'll pump out from the pond. Yeah, and then I use a sauna for showering. I don't shower with running water. I just use a bucket and a sponge bath. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna have another beer. Although maybe I shouldn't. This thing is pretty strong. But appreciate y'all. We're not fly fishing yet. It's still totally. Are you kidding me? It's winter here. It's totally locked in ice. But Let me tell you what, fishing videos will be plentiful this summer. So much fly fishing to be done. I'm a huge trout bum. And yeah, you better believe it. So look forward to that. A lot of catch and cook and building and hiking and exploring to come. So happy spring, y'all. Happy Easter, everybody. Hope you guys have a good Easter. And I will see you guys on the next episode of Alaska Cabin Adventures. Take it easy.